Cool. Now we are live on YouTube. Hello, and welcome to our fellow presentation for Zenzi Ali. She is presenting as a front-end fellow for the Flask program. So just before we start, we're just going to go over a couple of details about the fellowship program if you haven't heard about it. We're sponsored by Comcast, who gave us some money last year, and we used it to give folks a little bit of paid experience for their resumes who are already incredibly qualified developers and program product managers. The fellowship is essentially a part-time position where you work 10 hours each week for 8 weeks. It gives you a line on your resume to say, I was paid to do this work by this organization. And it allows us to promote people who can be effective and wonderful leaders in the tech community who represent more diverse voices, because I think that's kind of one of the things that we really need is more diverse people in leadership positions. We had some career development opportunities, which Zenzi actually attended these back when we did them, so we didn't we didn't say, hey Vicky, come back, do this again. We chose the fellows with a couple of questions that it was, can they do the work that they'll be doing without too much difficulty? Is this fellowship specifically helpful to this individual? Do they have an interest in the work that we're doing at Code for Philly and helping their community build more effective tech? And are they a collaborative person? Will it be easy to work with them? For this fellow, Gabe Cardona has been working in the mentor position to help her kind of understand the Flask program and also answer any questions she may have about implementing the project work. Cool. Oh, wait, that was your first slide. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Gabe, and Gabe can talk about his experience as a mentor and also introduce Zenzi for her presentation.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So hi, everyone. Gabe Cardona. Been working with Flask mostly, not very on and off, mostly just on the project at this point for about 2 years. It's coming from working on this project for 2 years with Code for Philly. We have our ebbs, our highs and our lows. We were talking about that earlier about how seasonal participation and engagement can be on these types of projects because it's balanced against their other elements of their life. And in particular, having someone like Zenzi join us actually has benefited us a lot because it's nice to have more. It's like a new spark to the team. Zenzi's kind of brought in that energy to seek out like what is there to do, how can I help, which I always appreciate. That's how I try to treat everything I work in. So I respect and it's always been very helpful and appreciated. And I was very inquisitive as well, which is great because sometimes it exposes things like we should have better unit testing, for example, with our web app. And I'll let you talk to more of that, Zenzi, but the work you've done to help us get unit testing for our web app, something that would be a no-brainer and simple on most like enterprise type projects, but for us is like, it's a challenge. We're all kind of learning, and Zenzi's help has really been huge in terms of getting us like a foundation to move forward. So very grateful for that. That's in a nutshell, that energy, the contributions, they all mean a lot to me personally as someone that's been on this for 2 years. We've have like many pushes where we achieve something and it drives us towards our goal of like going live. In this case, it's having those continuous tests and being on our live version of the site where we know every time we ship something new, somebody contributes, there'll be something that'll confirm it all works as expected. So without further ado, Zenzi, you have the floor. And thanks again. Always welcome in our project.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you, Gabe. I've enjoyed working on the project and, of course, plan to continue. Just couldn't say enough great things about Code for Philly and their mission. Before I even get started, I just want to thank the team for looking at my application at the beginning or of my coding career and thinking, this is somebody who could be useful on these projects, and picking a project that really um, played to my strengths and where I can be of service and continue service. I think as a junior, a lot of us are afraid to are intimidated by open source. So when you see a project that you feel passionate about, you may feel like you don't have the skills. And this has done a lot in showing that I can grow into the skills necessary to be helpful on a project. So just more about me. My name is Zenzi. I'm a software developer here in Philadelphia. Was born here, raised here, and went to Girls High where I took my first official programming course. That was in Pascal. I enjoyed it, but the enjoyment was short-lived because that was the only course offered at the time. It was a girls' school, and they tended to kind of influence us to move into the arts, into writing, into the humanities. And some of the coursework for tech and computer science was light. When I started, my class was the first one to have a full-time computer science teacher on board, and she taught Pascal 1 and Pascal Advanced, and that was the end of that. So I kind of put that interest aside and continued with the general work. I became an executive assistant, did that job for years until my children were born. They were twins, and unfortunately, at the time, they were born disabled, and that required me to leave the workforce for an extended amount of time. When I returned, I started working for Instacart, and I found that I really enjoyed working with the software, using it to inform my choices as a manager, and working with the data that was coming through. And I really excelled at that part of my job. So last spring, I decided to start taking some computer science courses that were intro level, and then I joined a boot camp. So the fellowship cycle has been explained a little bit, but specifically for me, because I accepted the fellowship while I was in boot camp, I was given the ability to wait to start until after it finished at the beginning of the year. I was assigned a project that matched my skills and interests. I think that, first of all, I learned React at boot camp, so it had to be a React project. And also, I have an interest in any work that touches people in poverty and making sure that they have access to information and resources. So Flask was a good fit for me. The process of onboarding really flowed to mirror real world onboarding. So Gabriel took time to introduce me to the code base, introduce me to the entire tech stack. I was able to meet with the team those first few times just to understand how our team fit together. Billy acted as a project manager, and even though he considers himself not to be a technical person, I was able to understand the way he drove the project to meet his goals, and listen to kind of our tech speak, and was able to understand how it all fit together to create an end product of the Flask app. I eventually moved on to paired programming and looking at some of the things that were missing, and there were some tests missing. And I thought that that would be a nice way to learn to navigate the code base more and to build some, to be of service and to create a endpoint that was consistently a good experience for the developer and for the end user. So now this is the kind of the wrap up exercises of the fellowship. I'm presenting tonight, and there'll be a blog post forthcoming. There's also a career development component to the Code for Philly Fellowship. I attended the seminars that promoted our enduring skills, and I call them enduring skills because for some reason they're considered soft skills. I don't think they're soft. They're the ones that you'll take through your entire life. So written communication, professional speaking, and just talking through your code are things that are going to help you throughout your career, even if your code base changes or your tech stack changes. So promoting enduring skills, I think, is a really important part of what Code for Philly does, especially teaching us how to work within a team that might be asynchronous. We've received resume feedback that I was able to implement so that I can put the best resume out going forward. And I've also been able to speak with a lot of the developers on the team about their career paths and what they're doing professionally and how Philly fits in to what they're doing. Also, that's kind of goes hand in hand with all of the networking opportunities I've received to network with people on the team and with Slack groups that they're also a part of. So more about Flask. So Flask's mission statement is to promote sustainability by maximizing the utility of and accessibility of resources for free. So what that means in terms of Flask is that it started with water sources. Billy's goal was to reduce the amount of plastic bottles that we're using and disposing of by making an app that has a map that allows you to see where you can refill a bottle that you can keep and take with you, hence the name Flask, play on words. But they were able to pivot successfully and maintain the water component, but also add a food component, which is nice because during the pandemic, food scarcity and access to food has been diminished. There are people who have now been at home for 12 months and they don't have the support they need. So I am really happy with that part of the project as well, because that speaks to my values. We've taken data from Xavier and from the Philadelphia Water Department to populate our map, and we're using React, Redux, Python, and Firebase and the Google Maps API to create our tech stack. And also Flask and I share values. Basically, transparency, cooperation, and humility is something that they represent. And you can tell because the developers are very personable. We've been able to speak about the project, and we come to it as we're all trying to learn something new and reach the common goal of having a working app that has information that is accessible for all Philadelphians. So the general workflow is weekly stand-up and hack night on Tuesday. And there we're going to go over tickets and features and bugs that might show up. We meet up with Billy, who, as I said, acts as our project manager, and he is just seeing our progress. If we have anything to share, that's a time that we demo anything that's new. We also discuss progress or obstacles. Gabe was available to me normally through Slack as well, so that if I bumped into an issue when I worked on the weekends, he could always speak with me and talk me through anything that I was working on. And we also communicated through GitHub as well. I did a lot of pair programming sessions on the weekends with other developers. And that was nice to just see how they troubleshoot items and also to just work through issues with another person because I've been learning to code in isolation. Yeah, so that was the general workflow for the last 7 weeks or so. So why did I choose testing as the feature I wanted to work on? I think because it plays to my strengths. I've been working in the service industry for a long time, and to me, testing is service. So when you are working on a technical project and it's not behaving on the customer side the way they expect it to, and they can't get to the information, or the developer is frustrated because something's not running and they don't understand, then you have, to me, a service breakdown that's preventing you from really using the technology. So when I look at programming, I think of it as an extension of my service persona, and programming, thinking about accessibility, thinking about making sure that customers have the best experience and that users can get the information that we're providing is something that means a lot to me. So testing allowed me to create a consistent platform for our users, and it allowed me to continue to reduce technical debt for the project. So I have a video of one of our Cypress tests. I'm hoping that it works today. I think we'll see. This is the Cypress test for the a nav bar. So the visual testing suite that I used was Cypress. We kept the Jest unit test in place, but we're looking forward to continuing to flesh those out. And essentially what happens when you run Cypress is that it opens the app and it clicks through all of your assumptions. So if you look at it now, you can see it's testing the entire nav bar and the opening prompts for when you visit Flask. And it does that automatically. And right now, it's all of my tests are passing and it'll end back at the Flask opening screen. So I think it's a good suite to have to test visually and make sure that your app looks and behaves as intended. So that was the testing component of my fellowship. And on the other side, I also worked to do a data scraping project with Azavia's Open Tree Map for Flask tree foraging project. We're hoping to implement additional pinpoints on our map that will allow users to see where trees that have edible fruit are located and allow them to gather that free food source as well. Okay, so just the lessons that I've learned during this 2-month process is to just keep your team updated regularly, checking in with them, even if things seem to be completely under control, to let them know where you stand while we're all working from home is something that I'll definitely take with me. When I get stuck, it's nice to also just let Gabe know these are the things I've tried so that he can have an understanding of how he can best help me at that point. Pair often. To me, if any developer is willing to pair with me, even if it's a language that I don't necessarily know, I learn a lot by watching their process and watching them troubleshoot. Plan, execute, and pivot is just everything that kind of the culmination of everything, because essentially you come up with an initial plan and you start working on it, and almost never does that plan work out. So I spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to troubleshoot, what to do next, how long I should stick with things, and how soon I should think about considering other sources. And I think one of the most important things I learned is that opinions, discussions, and even disagreements are part of the workflow. So one of the things that happened with testing is that I knew I wanted to test, but I did not come with a strong opinion as to what testing suite and software that we would use. And because of that, I kind of started testing blindly. And I think that that's made the process more difficult than it needs to be. And going forward, I think that even when I'm approaching bringing the team a new project or a new feature, I'll probably do more research on the back end before I get started so that people can understand why it's useful, why I want to do it, what I want to use, and why I think that that's beneficial. And I think that that's just something that I'll take with me throughout my career. So my next step, Flask testing continues. Like Gabe said, the app is growing, it's changing form, it's moving into its next phase, and I want to continue working on tests. I definitely feel like some of the static tests need more attention as well, and I'd like to continue building there. My Redux is getting stronger, so I feel like working with Redux more allows me to be of greater assistance on the project as well. I'm also, on a personal note, building my own projects that combines Tech Hub data with data on racial disparities, because that's just something that's interesting to me. I found data scraping and bots to be really interesting. So I want to continue to learn and work on data scraping projects and automating. And I'll start applying to backend engineer roles soon.
Can we all unmute and applaud?
Yeah.
Hey, very nice.
Nice job.
Zenzi, I didn't know that you were interested in scraping. I would have put you on the Philly Bail Fund project.
Well, that's the issue with jumping into tech, is that you don't know what you're interested in because you just kind of jump in and then you're finding out things as you go.
That's great. Well, I think you might be interested. They're making a dashboard about the justice system and racial disparities. So you might find that project interesting. Pam is here, and she's going to talk about the rest of our presentation.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and talk, and if I'm super choppy, please say something in the chat and we'll bail out. I've really enjoyed when I realized that I could watch the presentation via the live stream on YouTube, and then I could, so I'm like a little bit in the past from y'all, like a couple of seconds behind, but it's so good. I'm so excited for the work that you're able to do and your journey in the fellowship. So I think I should be able to see if you change the slide, Marika. I think it should be next one. Because before you go, we have an exciting announcement. So I would like you to tap your computers. There are more fellowships to come. Marika Advanced is that so if you didn't know, this was a bit more of so Comcast sponsored this first fellowship round of the fall and the winter, and then they've actually committed to support this for the next few years. And that's really, really important for the sustainability of this project. And which leads into the next question is how you can help. Is that we need projects for mentors to work on with fellows. And so if you are interested in the fellowship, if you're interested in being involved, get in touch. We need help on the leadership team, and if you're interested on working on future versions of the fellowship. And then, yes, next slide is keep in touch. Please rate, review, and subscribe. And follow on Twitter. If you make an account on Code for Philly, that's how you can join us on Slack. If you didn't hear about this on Meetup and someone sent you the link, please make sure you are on there so that you will get notifications about the events. And I think that was the business at hand, Rika. Sounds good.
thank you all so much for coming and listening to our presentation. And oh my gosh, when we got the applications and I read Zenzi's with the person who was mentoring the other fellowship for the front end, I was like, she's not done with her boot camp, and this is literally the person this fellowship is for. That I like talked to leadership. I was like, we can find $1,500 to bring her on. Like, let's get a fourth person in, because she is incredible, and as you all have seen tonight, and did incredible work. Imagine your first experience is with a Code for Philly project where everybody is a volunteer, and it's not necessarily like it's a little more chaotic than a company, and she's done incredible work and is wonderful. I learned more in this presentation than I knew before. So we're going to post her blog post hopefully next week. And if you are interested in this project, if you think that this is cool, if you have ideas, let us know. We would love to have you join us. So thank you all for coming today, and it's lovely to see everybody. And I hope that you have a